Want to become the number one authority in your niche by being a guest on other people's podcasts? I'm going to give you 5 tips today and show you exactly how to take your story, your message, and leverage the power of what I like to call OPP, right? Other people's podcast by being a guest on 2 interviews a week. 2 interviews a week puts you in front of 100 audiences a year. That's it, right? It starts to be really simple. I'm going to teach you a really simple formula on how you can truly go out and make an impact by staying in your lane, by leveraging the power of podcasting, by being a guest on other people's podcasts, and using that to monetize and grow your list. And it's super exciting. Podcasting right now is an upward trend. All roads, all marketing roads are leading back to podcasting. And yes, you can host your own podcast, but there's so much value. There's so much impact that you can leverage even as a podcast host by being a guest on other people's podcasts. My name's Angel Tuccy, and they call me the media matchmaker. For about 15 years, I've been in the space of leveraging radio, television, magazines, broadcasting, newspapers in order to leverage my brand and help hundreds of other entrepreneurs create that impact as well. Over the last few years, we've added podcasting and virtual summits into the mix because the online world has just exploded. And now, without even having to leave your home, to leave your desk, as long as you've got an internet connection, right, a great quality microphone and a video, right, a video camera, you can truly be global, right? Create that global impact all across the globe, transcending time zones, geography, right? Your message out there for the world to hear it. And another beautiful thing about podcasting is, or being a podcast guest, is the fact that your podcast interviews are evergreen. They stick around. They have longevity. They have legs to them. So often when we are a guest or a speaker at a live event, we impact that audience for a couple hours, a couple days that we're there. But having your interview go out onto a podcast, it can be around for years, right? Days, months, weeks, years. Somebody could hear that podcast 2 years from now. And so the content, it can explode. It can go viral. People that would not have normally been in the room will have a chance to hear you. And of course, podcast listeners, they listen actively. What does that mean? It means that they're doing something else the same time that they're listening. They're walking their pets, right? They're cleaning the house, they're exercising, they're commuting, right? They're actively doing something else while listening. So that activates their brain in a really powerful way. In fact, it's the most impactful way for you to connect deeply with your audience. So if you are not yet an avid podcast listener, I encourage you to jump on the bandwagon. Most technology is, even our phones are getting upgrades now for making the podcasting experience for both the podcaster and the guest and the audience and the listener just an even more valuable experience. And so podcasting is growing. It is thriving. Every day, millions of people listen to podcasts, and they could be listening. That next podcast they listen to could be you. It's an incredible way to get discovered, right? Get discovered. They're going along their day. They're listening to their favorite podcaster, and they introduce you. All of a sudden, you're in front of them in a way that they never anticipated or expected. And as long as you're adding great value and an incredible guest, they'll probably check you out, right? They'll probably look you up. They'll follow you on Instagram, on LinkedIn. They're going to Google search you. So I'm going to give you some tips today on how you can become that number one authority in your niche using podcast guesting, right? As a really strategic formula for marketing without ever leaving your home, right? Impacting your audience, getting unlimited leads, unlimited traffic, and truly out there having your story shared on a platform that is growing every single day. Like I said, I've been in broadcasting now for 15 years. Actually, I was in broadcasting for 10 years. And now I've been on the other side of broadcasting, teaching organizations, entrepreneurs, authors, speakers, 6-figure and 7-figure companies how to leverage the power of media exposure in order to build their brand. You have something really impactful to share with the world. And the struggle for most is that they just don't have enough leads, right? Not enough traffic. Well, being a podcast guest can change all of that instantly, right? You can be in front of hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands with one podcast interview. I'm going to teach you a formula on using 2 podcast interviews every single week to get you in front of 100 fresh new audiences. The exposure is unlimited. I'm going to teach you how to get it, how to leverage it, and how to keep it going. I run one of the most popular online Facebook groups for finding guests and getting booked. It's called Need a Guest. So if you need a quality guest, we've got you, right? And if you're looking for top quality podcasts to be a guest on, we got you covered there too. We are the fastest growing online Facebook group for connecting podcasters and guests together. And you can sign up for free at needaguest.com. You can also join our premium community at getpremiumforfree.com, getpremiumforfree.com, which is our community of guests and podcasters, where we're helping you with free training, discussion groups, community building, networking, sponsorships for your shows, all the good stuff in our premium community. And it's free. Getpremiumforfree.com is where you get started. And so the very first thing I want to encourage you is you get to stay in your lane. You do you. Stay in your expertise. Think about what it is that people come to you for. What do they want to pick your brain about? I call this your media magnet, right? A magnet attracts. So when we think about you, what is the topic that we automatically think of you as the expert that you speak on, that you're my go-to person for this? So for me, right, it's media exposure. If you want to be a guest, you want media coverage, you're looking for more stages, you're looking to connect with great quality guests and speakers, Angel's your media matchmaker. So there's my space. When you think about yours, the good news is you don't have to be jack of all trades. You don't have to have 30 different topics. You don't even have to have 3 different topics. Focus on one. My friend Maria Wentz says, focus on one core audience, one core program for 1 year, right? Stay in your lane and pick one topic. This media magnet helps you to research, to find the right audiences, to find the right podcasts, to get referrals, to get leads, to get testimonials, and we can monetize that one stream all the way through, right? From you as the expert, creating the exposure, being a guest, your call to action, leading them all the way into your sales castle, through your sales funnel, one core topic. So focus on one. And I encourage you right now, like make a list, like what are the top things that you speak on that you would want to, right, share? Like if I handed you a microphone right now, without any preparation at all, what would you speak on passionately? Like what would you be most excited about sharing? Again, no research. You're like, I can go to town. Now for me, like I have a lot of different topics, like we all do, right? We've lived a full life. We're living full lives. I mean, we all can talk about transformation and pivoting, right, over the last couple of years, some kind of breakthrough, some type of transformation. But are there things that you're passionate about, things you love to talk about? Are there things that you just have incredible experience with? For me, again, it's in media and broadcasting. I was in broadcasting for 10 years. I hosted 2 back-to-back radio shows. I was the host of a positive business talk show for 2 hours, and in a 6-minute window, a commercial break, we shut that down, moved around the corner, set up in another studio, and I hosted a second 2-hour Christian lifestyle show where I was talking to moms in minivans in the carpool lane, right? And so I've got lots of breadth of, right, 4 hours of talk radio, 20 hours of talk radio every single week. I never run out of things to say. But what I'm most passionate about is helping organizations get their message out in front of lots of different audiences, right? Creating that impact, giving you a platform to share your story, to create that ripple effect in the world. Imagine with one media interview, one podcast interview, right? You can impact hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions. It's you throwing a stone out into the lake and creating that ripple effect. And the beautiful thing about being a guest on podcasts is the fact that they are evergreen. They're long lasting. If you are a speaker at an event, you get to be in front of that audience and you impact them for a couple hours, maybe a couple of days. But your podcast can stick around for days, weeks, months, years. So focus on one core topic that we can completely dominate and crush in that space, right? That you are the expert in that space. The second thing that I want you to think about is your story. Stories are sticky. Stories get good airtime, right? If you've got a story, stories are how people can connect with you. Being a podcast guest is the number one way to connect most deeply with your audience because they're listening actively. What does that mean? It means they're probably doing something else at the same time, walking their pets, cleaning their house, exercising, commuting, right? They're actively doing something else while listening. And if you're a podcast listener, right, aren't you usually doing something else? You're not just sitting there idle listening. You're actively doing something else with your body. And so that engages your mind in a way that allows you to connect more deeply with what you're listening to. So if you want to connect more deeply with your target audience, being a guest, an audio guest, right, where they're listening on a podcast is the fastest and most fun way to get your story out there. Remember, you have one signature talk, right? One signature topic. For every point, right? For every conversation, you want to have some really good stories, something that drives your point home, that paints a really beautiful picture, that allows the audience to garner more trust with you, to connect with you on an even deeper level, to have that emotional impact, like get excited, to be inspired, to have hope. You can take them right on that hero's journey of impact, right? Where you started out and you kind of hit a challenge, and then you hit a challenge and you hit a challenge, and you just kind of hit rock bottom. And then you tried all of these, things to get yourself out until finally, my friend Jenny calls it, you hit your magic elixir and you came out. Now you're on the other side teaching people what it is that you know, what it is that you've learned, what you've experienced. They want to hear those stories. So don't be afraid to be vulnerable, to be emotional, right? To laugh, to cry. It doesn't always mean like sad and depressed and it has to be this horrific story. But we've all stumbled, right? We've all stumbled. And that's really what people are looking for. They want you to be real. They want to know. And even if you've always had it really good, there's probably challenges in that as well, right? But we know that to experience true joy, you've probably experienced some sadness, and that's life. And your audience wants to hear that. So having impactful stories or, really great stories with an emotional impact, that's super valuable to share as a podcast guest. The third thing that I want you to think about is having everything all lined up, and what I like to call, my very professional term, matchy, right? Angel Tuccy, media matchmaker, right? Your signature title is on everything. What you speak on, your core topic, what you are an expert on is on everything, including your voicemail, right? Including your Uber app, all of your social media sites. Put a matching picture, a great quality headshot or a really fun photo that represents you, and have it match on everything for a while, right? Not forever, but for a while you're establishing your brand, your expertise as a podcast guest. We know that when people are listening, if they haven't heard of you before, they've just discovered you, right? They've just going along, minding their own business, listening to their favorite podcast, who now introduces you as their guest. And now they've discovered you. What are they going to do? They're going to pull out their phones. They're going to look you up. They're going to do a little search. And what are they going to find, right? I want to make sure that everything is matchy, right? Your picture, your title, what you speak on. This is going to help to elevate that brand, that Google search. You want to be found more easily, have everything lined up and matchy. I know it sounds really silly, but it works. It works all the time. I've been using the same photos, right, for 3 years on all of my marketing, just to elevate that brand in the marketplace. We just had our books featured. My book was just featured on a billboard in Times Square. And for the photo shoot, I wore the same t-shirt that I'm wearing on the cover of that book, just to create that matchy my So go through, right? This is going to be a little bit of homework to go through all of your social sites, your email signature, all of your, my voicemail, everything. Where do people see me? Where can people discover me? And how can I change all of that to make sure that it's all in alignment and that it matches that number one, right? Go back to that number one, my core topic, right? That with the impact of my social impact and my social story, my emotional impact of that story, that it all lines up. that it all lines up. All right, the fourth thing, and this is really critical. When I was in broadcasting, we would have some of the most amazing guests on our show. We would be doing these incredible interviews with them. And they were very, very prepared, very elegant in their answers, short but succinct, right? To get to the next point. We have a wonderful dialogue. They had, you obviously, knew their stuff well. They were experts and passionate about what they spoke on. And then I would ask them this one question that would totally trip them up. And it floored me that they would be so prepared on everything except for this one critical piece. And that one critical piece is the answer to, how do we connect with you? How do we follow up with you? Where does my audience go for more information, right? The question of your call to action, where do we connect with you, always tripped up my audience or my guests more often than I'm proud to say, right? And so what often would happen is they're like, oh, they can follow me on my social sites, connect with me here. I've got a website that's some complicated thing, or they've got this and this, and they're not matching. Or they can book a call with me, or they can have my phone number. They would list off like a menu of options. Now, remember, this was radio where people are driving in their cars, they're doing something else. So they're not typically sitting there with a notepad with all the places they want to follow up with you. So we need one core signature call to action, right? One super easy call to action where it's something for you, something for me. I'm going to give you a gift. In exchange, you're going to give me either your email address or your phone number. So the phone number could be a text opt-in, right? Text the word angel to 26786, right? Text the word angel to 26786, and you're going to get my complimentary media starter guide, right? And I would go on about how fabulous this starter guide is, right? Guaranteed media opportunities, a full year of attention grabbing headlines. Like, we threw everything in the kitchen sink to help you get started in creating media exposure instantly, right? In the next 10 days, I want you featured in the media. Go and grab my complimentary media starter guide. I also have it at my website, makeyourbiguimpact.com. So on a media interview, I want to give away something for free. Go to makeyourbiguimpact.com. You're going to get access to my complimentary media starter guide and all the great resources. You want to do the same thing, right? Here's something really free. Can I give your audience a gift today? We have this free thing, this fun thing, this valuable tool, this valuable resource that's going to give them an instant result and a super easy URL, makeyourbiguimpact.com, right? Text ANGEL, ANGEL, to 26786 versus complicated web links, right? My website /radio, like they would never do the /radio part. So we're not getting their data, right? If the /radio was the squeeze page where they had to put their email address in, we were never getting there. And so you might drive traffic to your website, but if we don't collect their data, we aren't building our list. You might drive traffic to your social media pages, but again, if we don't collect their email address, we're not building our list. So I always want you to get them into your castle, right? Your sales castle, first party data. Don't tell them to go buy my book on Amazon. Go buy my book from me, right? Now the link might be on to Amazon for them to buy the book, the official link for the buying process. But don't send them to other people's castles. Get them into yours and leverage the power of those interviews every single week to continuously build your list, build your following, not to sell, but to add value. Remember, you on somebody else's podcast. This is not a selling feature. This is not ads, right? As a speaker, you're probably on somebody's stage speaking and selling a program. As a guest on somebody else's podcast, that is not the case. I see a lot of times people post in my Need a Guest Facebook group, I want to promote my event. I want to get on somebody's podcast to do that. Remember, podcasts are evergreen. They're sticking around for days, weeks, months, years. So the idea of selling a program that is happening in the next couple of weeks or the next couple of months is not an ideal platform for you. It's not an ideal platform for that podcaster either. Remember, it's their platform. They can sell. Their sponsors can sell. You could sponsor their podcast in order to run an ad that sells, right? And that's an ideal way. But as a guest, your job is to add value. educate, entertain, even if the audience doesn't buy from you. So they even if they don't buy, right? Like that's the critical piece. Use it to build your list and then sell to your list. We don't sell to other people's podcast, as a guest on somebody else's podcast. We add value. We can give a freebie. We can give a call to action that gets them into our sales castle. And that's where we monetize. And that's where we benefit. So again, this goes back to making sure you're focused on your one core topic, because with that call to action should be perfect and line up with what you're speaking on. So if I've got a great media starter kit and I'm over there speaking on time management, my gift doesn't match up. And so rather than having multiple gifts, I hear this from people all the time. Well, it depends on who I'm talking to. Well, let's focus in. Let's have one target audience, one core offer, one call to action, right? Let's get them in and take them down that really beautiful drawbridge right into your sales castle, right? So having a really sexy, clear call to action, right? And clear is better than clever, right? Clarity brings clients. Clarity creates profit. Clarity brings leads. Like clarity over everything is always better than clever. And then my final tip is really leveraging 2 interviews a week. Connect with podcasters every single week in order to get booked every single week on 2 interviews. 2 interviews gives you exposure in front of 100 fresh new audiences every year. 100 audiences. I mean, really think about it. One podcast could impact hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands. But we don't want to put our eggs all in one basket, right? We never know when that podcast is going to be released, when it's actually going to get picked up, when it will air, all of that. We don't know who's listening on day one, right? People may be listening a week later, a month later, a year later. And so by creating the consistency of 2 interviews a week, it doesn't take over your life, right? You can make time for this every single week. And what I have found just in my last 5 years of helping my clients get booked on podcasts and stages and events is 2 features a week. Gives you that momentum, gives you that cadence, gives you that consistency. And it's something you can easily build into your week. You still take care of your VIP clients. You still have time to create content. This doesn't consume you, but what it does is creates a consistent flow of fresh new leads and fresh traffic into your email list that you can continuously nurture, build that relationship, add value to, and eventually sell to. So it's a really proven, trustworthy, perfect formula. 2 interviews a week. Where do you find enough podcasts to get on booked 2 interviews a week? On our Facebook group at needaguest.com. Every single week, about 300 new posts. People are always looking for guests every single day. That's the good news, right? We never run out. Right? I have people reach out to me weekly with hundreds of media opportunities and stages to speak on. They're always looking for guests, quality guests. So stay in your lane, right? Get your media magnet together. Create that emotional impact with your story. Make sure everything is all aligned up and matchy, right? Have a good, clear call to action and go out and get booked on 2 stages a week. I'm Angel Tuccy. I am your media matchmaker. Sign up at getpremiumforfree.com and join our community. Grab your free gift at makeyourbigimpact.com and get booked every single week at needaguest.com. Cheers.